subject, I wanted to talk about something that's come up recently. I'm starting to realize that you should not listen to anybody. You should listen to as few people as you possibly can about what you should do in your life, how you should act, what things you need to achieve or accomplish, or what logic you need to employ when dealing with situations in your life. You can talk to people who are so far on one side of the spectrum of life that they, they're only living in a physical, material reality, and you can talk to people that are all the way on the other side that are completely, have completely lost their ego, lost all of their connection to the physical reality, and they're very spiritual, very out there people, So you can go anywhere between, a regular materialistic human being and a hippie, a Woodstock type vibe, a person who has dropped all of those things. And both of those people will tell you how to live your life. Both of those ends of the spectrum and everywhere in between will tell you how to express yourself, how to live your life, what you need to do in order for your life to become fulfilling. But they are only projecting their own experience. People suck at giving advice. Just kind of straight up in general. Most people suck at giving advice. Most people don't know what you need. A lot of people will act like they do, and especially when you're kind of asking for it. When you're kind of putting yourself out there in such a manner of asking kind of, what do I do? What do I need to change? I'm at a loss in my own life. What can I do differently? What do I need to do? And most people are not ready to give you that advice because they don't fucking know. They don't fucking know. They only know what they've done in their life, and you can try to use some of that to your advantage, but usually it's not helpful. Most people's version of advice is listening to what you got going on and then running it through the filter of what they've experienced in their life and regurgitating back to you what they would have done. Like I said, you can take that stuff and you can listen to these people and learn from it and understand it, but do not take everything that somebody says as exactly what you need to do. Do not listen to people, when you get into this state of being in need of help, when you're in need of somebody to give you advice, when you're in need of that word to help you understand what to do next. Don't allow yourself to just accept whatever advice is handed to you because you're in need, right? We talk about this with, relationships, with friendships. We don't just accept what we can get, we accept what we deserve. We deserve real, thought out advice that is really catered to exactly the experience we need, and most people aren't able to give that to us. So when we're looking for somebody to talk to give us advice, to kind of help us deal with stuff, help us understand what to do next, we can't just look for just anybody. We can't just settle for whoever's available. We need to kind of, run your own kind of background check on whoever you're talking to. Whether it's somebody you've known for a while or somebody you just met, and you're having a nice conversation and you're talking about some more serious stuff because they seem like that type of person. Don't just take them at face value, and don't just accept that, well, this person seems really, really cool, they seem really out there, they seem like they get it, and so I should listen to what they say. Not necessarily all the time. I think it takes a good amount of healthy, what is the word I'm looking for? It takes a good amount of discernment in your own self to realize who you should be taking advice from and who you shouldn't. And you've got to develop that discernment over time. You've got to really get good at it and good at understanding, who's got your best interest in mind and who's got their best best interest in mind, but running it through the lens of what you've got going on. You may not understand what I mean by that, but they look at what you've got going on, and they give you advice based on what would bring them the most happiness in that situation, what would make them feel complete in that situation, but it's not the same for you. You know, that's the thing about that advice, where they're running it through their own filter of what they've seen. It doesn't apply to you always, and it can, you know, not to write off every time somebody's ever given advice in history, because obviously that's not what I'm doing here, but you may find somebody, and you may start talking to somebody new, just as a friend, as a companion, as somebody to give advice, somebody that's maybe even kind of a mentor, things like that towards you. You may find this person and feel like they're your shining star. They are the one that's finally gonna, you know, really show you something important. And it's not true as often as we might think. We get this idealistic expectation based on what we've seen in movies and TV about how you just meet that one person and all of a sudden everything's changed and all of a sudden you understand everything. Even the Fight Club thing, Tyler Durden, you know, minus the fact that he's not real, that he's just in real Tyler's mind. You know, Tyler Durden was that type of person that you meet in your life where they change shit for you, and like all of a sudden you look at things in a new perspective and you're like, wow, like that was life changing to meet this person and get to know this person. It's not always like that. It's really fucking not. And we can, you know, especially in a state of desperation where we're really, really looking for somebody to help us, really looking for somebody to open our eyes and change our, you know, perspective, we can start to settle for just about anybody who seems halfway interesting. And it's not going to do it for you, and it's not going to be realistically helpful. So just reminding you to, you know, don't listen to what anybody else says about what you should do in situations. You know, look inside yourself. This is a very common thing. It's a very, you know, often spoke about thing. I still get annoyed when I hear this myself sometimes. I hear all this, the answers are within you. Everything you need is within you. You already have the answers you need within you. And I want to throw my fucking phone when I read shit like that. I want to fucking just, you know, it irks me, because I'm like, what the fuck do you mean? How the fuck is it inside me? You know, I don't get it. But I think I'm starting to understand it, and it's time. If you don't get it now, you will. It's time. It's over time you develop and you learn about things about yourself, right? You have experiences, you see things, you meet people, you talk to people, you build relationships on your own. And through doing that, if you can consciously push out everyone else's views, if you can consciously drop everyone else's viewpoint of what they think is this and what they think is that, and you just focus on what things make you feel, what talking to a certain type of person really makes you feel like, not what everyone thinks it makes you feel like, not what everyone decided for you it feels like. You know, really consciously remembering what you feel like when you experience things, when you go to this type of place, when you talk to this type of person, when you do this activity, when you do this sport, when you go on a hike, when you do anything. How does it make you feel? And really starting to get in touch with that, and, you know, just only doing stuff based on how you feel. I've talked about this before in, you know, other aspects, but the message is going to be kind of the same. You've got to understand what you want out of your life. You got to understand what you want to see out of the people around you, what you want to feel based on the experiences you are putting yourself into. It's all about you. It's all about you and yourself. You know everything inside of you. You've just got to unlock it. You've just got to open it up for yourself. People, is it Terence McKenna? I think I may be horribly butchering that. Maybe it's Terence McKenna, maybe some other psychedelic, what do you want to call him, psychonaut, psychedelic spokesperson, somebody who's really into that stuff. Anyway, you get the point. Somebody said something about LSD, taking LSD, and there's this idea that when you take LSD, all of a sudden you understand everything. All of a sudden you learn all this new information, and it opens your mind up to this cosmic web of information. And this person kind of said, I'm going to paraphrase a lot, they said that you can't learn something from LSD that you did not already know. This drug, this chemical, you put it on your tongue, is not going to teach you things that you've never seen before. It's not going to teach you stuff that has never been entered your consciousness before. What it is going to do is reach inside of your consciousness and take things out and show them to you. It is going to take things that you already know deep down inherently, and it is going to present them in a nice, palatable way, especially when you're under the influence of that. Because you almost get this sense when it wears off, if you do any writings, if you make any drawings, if you do anything that kind of keeps a record of what was going on while you were in that state, when you look back at it sober, and it multiplies the longer it's been since then, you look back at it and you go, what was I thinking? I don't even understand that. That doesn't make sense to me. Because you're not in that state, and you're not able to accept that information in that form, right? So, not too much about the LSD thing. I'm not talking about that today. But relates to the idea that, growth and expanding your mind comes from within. It comes from things that you already know based on your experience in your life that you're applying in a better way because it's being made apparent to you through your experiences, through what you're seeing. It's kind of opening up these things that you know deep inside yourself that you have been ignoring or overlooking or pushing to the side. You've got to get more comfortable with opening that door in yourself. Get more comfortable with forgetting what anybody says about something. Somebody can tell you that, girls who look like this will always act like this. Just a specific instance, things like that. You get this in your head that, if you talk to a girl with tattoos and piercings, that she's got emotional issues, right? Things like that. It's a weird specific thing there, but I'm just going to use that. It's not always true. You've got to, for yourself, speak to people with tattoos and piercings and realize for yourself if that person deals with those issues, and not look through it through the lens of what everyone else says. I'm not super happy with the example I used there. That's not exactly what I'm getting at, but it's something that I believe will be more palatable for people to understand what I'm saying there. Just, forget about what everyone else says about things. Forget about what everyone else has decided for you is the case. People from New York act like this. People from Cali who surf act like this. It's not true. There's a such thing as culture and locations carrying a heavier culture of a certain type, but it's just not. It's not the end all be all. And from watching movies, TV, listening to other people who are more traveled, who I've seen more, they will try to tell you what to think about stuff. And it's just not healthy for you, and it gets you out of touch with your own self and your own ability to think for yourself. So whenever you're experiencing anything for the first time, almost stop looking at reviews. Stop looking into what other people thought of it. If you want to get into a new hobby, stop going on such a deep dive on the internet and trying to figure out what everyone thinks about that thing before you can think something of it. Take a step that's a little unknown into something that you don't understand and learn for yourself what you think of it. Take those chances and expand your own mind and realize what makes you tick, not what everyone tells you will make you tick or what makes them tick. Advice and stuff like that is more seldom needed than we believe. Somebody telling you what you should do about something or how you should handle something is very seldom needed. And, you know, from a young age, it should first come from our parents. It should come from the people we trust in our lives. And kind of after that, after you've grown and you've changed and you've developed a little more in your life, you should start to become more comfortable with taking your own advice for stuff. Building your own ability to discern things, discern what's good for you, what's bad for you, what you like, what you don't like, you know, what type of people to talk to and what type of people not to talk to. Those things should not be constantly instilled upon you by everybody else except for yourself. Because then what are you? You're not a being of free will, you're not a being of your own self, you're a being of what everyone else has decided for you that you are. And you know, that's the bigger thing too, is what you are. So, well, all that ties into what you should think about what other people are. It's also about what you should think about yourself. People are always so ready to instill upon you these little nuggets of knowledge. If you know, you know. These little nuggets of knowledge of what they think that you should be. You know, people will love to almost look at you and tell you things like, oh, I see this in you. Like, I know you, buddy. I've seen your type before, and, you know, you need to do this. Fuck that. Fuck that. Break those fucking molds. Don't listen to those fucking people. Because you can get this kind of, like, enlightened feeling when somebody says something like that about you, and you think, oh my god, I finally figured out who I am. They told me who I was, and now I get it. Fuck that. It is not for them to decide. And you should not be searching for validation in other people to decide that for you. You are you. You are to decide those things for yourself. So don't get so easily manipulated by people who say shit like that to you and try to make you feel this aha moment of like, you know, I really am that. Thank you for pointing that out to me. You know, I didn't understand that. You know why you didn't understand that? Because it's not true. It's not who you are. You still haven't figured out who you are. You haven't decided who you are. Now, don't take what that person labeled you as truth either. Because that's not true. You need to decide for yourself. Spend time getting in touch with what you decide is right. What you decide you want to feel, what you want to be around, who you want to talk to, who you want to be with. Those are all for you. You know, don't get caught up in everyone else's ideas and everybody else's thoughts. Because they're not yours. And thus, you are losing your ability to live life freely and comfortably as your own self. I'm gonna wrap that up there. You get the point. You've heard me hash through that a few different ways. You understand what I mean by that. Please think for yourself. Think for yourself, and no matter how exciting, fun, and fresh and new the people you might meet, people you might, want to get advice from that just seem like they've got it down so much more than you do and you could really learn something for them, take a step back and realize what you're doing when you're doing that. Take a step back and just think about really, really deeply whether that person actually is helping you or they're just living some vicarious life through you and inputting their own values and beliefs onto you because they think that they see themselves in you and that you are a version of them. You are not. You are you. You are wholly unique. You are not a version of anybody else. You are not a subsection, sub-piece of everybody else. You are completely, 100% your own thing. And you need to, really exercise that feeling. So, we are wrapping up there. It is time to get into the gym. Holy shit, this looks like a fucking mess. Ugh. Fucking driveway is a mess. Oh my god. Alright, so I'm going to end that video there. You will see my gym trip in the other video I'm posting today. I'll be posting 2 videos. So one will be just this talk, and the other video will be straight up just a gym vlog. So I'll be doing 2 videos. So As for the end of this video, thank you guys for watching. Take care of yourself, love yourself, respect yourself, do something better for yourself every day, and do not conform to fit anybody else's beliefs about what you are, who you are, and how you are supposed to be. That is for you to decide. Thank you guys for watching. You guys have a great rest of your night. I'm going to get into the gym and I'm going to film that video now.